Hi, my name is Daley, and I live in Oak Forest, Illinois. Today is Friday, April 9th, 2021, and I am interviewing Lauryl Bennington in Oklahoma. And we are here today as part of the Oklahoma State University's Oral History Project, COVID-19 Teacher Poets Writing to Bridge the Distance. Thanks for joining me today, Lauryl.
Thanks for having me.
Do you want to start by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, of course. I am a senior at Oklahoma State University. I am majoring in secondary education English. So I'm planning to either be a middle or high school English teacher, whichever one comes up, but either one would be great. So that's what I do. Besides that, I love coffee, tea, hanging out with my family and my friends. My main thing is I love music, really all types of music. I really find a lot of inspiration through music and everything. So I would say that's something that's really important about me. And I love concerts. That's my favorite activity. Of course, I haven't been able to do that for a while, but that's okay. Hopefully soon things will happen with that again. But that's a little bit about me. I student teach in the fall, so then I'll graduate in December.
Okay. Well, we have a lot in common other than the whole student teaching and the coffee thing. Everything else I'm on board with. So, have you always wanted to be a teacher?
Um, kind of. Whenever I was younger, I always played school with my grandma and my sister, and I was always the teacher. My grandma was an English teacher, actually. And so we always played school, but I was the teacher, and my sister and grandma were the students, and I'd only teach English. And so that was always fun. And so I kind of like swayed away from that though. And I started college as a journalism major. And I decided against it because I always add too much detail into things. And journalism's very like succinct, and I'm really elaborate with my words, and the AP style was just not really for my writing. But so I switched from journalism to secondary education, and I'm really glad I did. I was thinking about maybe doing like a minor in theater as well, but because I was into that in middle and high school. But I didn't end up doing that, and that's fine. But yeah, so I think I always had a feeling I was going to be a teacher, but I tried different things and I ended up coming back to it. So, and I'm really happy that I did.
Great. So your grandmother was a teacher. Did you have any other teachers in the family?
She was the only teacher in the family. There's a lot of people in the military in my family, but that's not for me personally. But yeah, she's the only teacher.
Okay. So if you could tell me about your dream job after you graduate, because I know you said middle school or high school, what do you think your dream job would be?
I think my dream would be to work in either a suburban or an urban area. And I think I'm aiming for like 8th or 9th grade, because I think that that's a really like that was an important time for me as an adolescent. I mean, I guess I still am an adolescent at 21, but I don't know. I just think it's a really important time, and something that's really important for me to teach are like coming of age units. And I feel like 8th and 9th grade is like that perfect gap for coming of age stories and literature and poetry and stuff like that. So I just really like that age too. Whenever I was babysitting, I always like babysat older kids, and always tried to incorporate some sort of coming of age. Songs, movies, any kind of stuff like that. I'm obsessed with the idea of like coming of age. I don't know, I keep saying that, but it's just so fun to me. And I also just like like ending middle school with 8th grade or starting a new time like in high school is a really scary time for some kids. And I think I would like to be that teacher that, helps guide them through growing up.
Well, that's wonderful. And I think we're living in such a fortunate time right now where we have so many wonderful writers that are helping so many different kinds of kids with their own coming of age stories. So I think that's a very admirable goal. Would you mind sharing with us one of the poems that you wrote last April? I think it might give us a little bit more insight into you as a person. And I'm talking about the one that you wrote on April 4th.
Okay, yes. So I'll give a little background before I begin. So this is like right when quarantine had started, and obviously I wasn't able to see anyone except for my family. And thankfully I was able to go home and spend time with my parents and sister. But hadn't seen anyone for a little bit, and I really could only focus on myself, and that was kind of scary. And so I felt like I was doing a lot of introspection, and it was kind of, I don't know, it was a lot for me at first. I kind of maybe got used to it, but this is a poem that I wrote. The prompt for the day on Ethical ELA was about a part of you or something that you see in yourself that you're a little self-conscious about, but yeah, so I'll just read it and then we'll talk after. Okay, so it says, smooth, perfect porcelain skin, but it wasn't mine. Mine was freckled with red dots varying in size and space. I stared at the large picture on Vogue's cover. I glared in the overwhelming mirror in my bathroom. I compared the two images. Even though there isn't a book on what beauty is or means, I always knew that wasn't me. My mom tells me, not to worry, you'll grow out of it, she says. But what usually only happens to teens still happens to me as an adult. My family all share olive tones and even textures. My skin is scarred and cracking under the pressure, but somehow increasingly oily at the same time. Medicine bottles and ointments crowd my bathroom counter, still full from weeks without use. They never work anyways. Tears fall rapidly into my large oval pores. If only those were a magical serum, my skin would be flawless and glowing. So that's a little poem. I've always struggled with acne and has never gone away, and it's still happening, and it kind of scares me to, be going into a classroom where kids are going through puberty and, have acne and stuff. I mean, maybe it'll make me more relatable, but at the same time, it's like, kind of embarrassing. And so during quarantine, I'd be like staring in the mirror all day, like looking at social media and everything. Everyone has this like great skin. I'm like, okay, well, it is what it is. So that's a poem that I wrote about that.
Well, I'd like to offer two comments if you don't mind. One is that your skin looks absolutely flawless right now as I'm looking at you. I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about.
Thank you. It's the makeup. Trust me.
And the other one is, again, I think that any student would be so thrilled to hear a teacher and read something that a teacher has written like this that would make them say, oh, wow, I think this person really gets me. So I think that's really wonderful.
Thank you.
Can you tell us a little bit about how you got involved with Ethical ELA and with Verse Love, when that was and how you got involved?
For sure. So I'm actually one of Dr. Donovan's students. She's the founder of Ethical ELA and Verse Love and all that. So for my class I was in the spring, so January to May of when COVID started, that Verse Love was a part of our curriculum for that class. And so we had to, for like a grade, but also like just because it was fun as well and enjoyable to do. But besides that, it was a part of our class. And so we had to do so many days for participation and all of that. But so that's how I got involved with it. And then like the first few days, I was a little nervous because, sharing your poetry, especially when everyone seemed to be a lot more experienced in their poetry and everything. It was a little intimidating, but once you like post and then get feedback that's always kind and generous, then it started to get easier to share certain things. And yeah, so that's how I got started with everything like that. And I'm doing it again this year, so.
And before you started writing for the class assignment, Had you been writing already?
Yeah. For that class, we had to write a certain number of prompts in our journal every week. But before that, I've had a journal since I was young. And I never really wrote poetry though in my journals. It was more so just a way to write about my feelings and everything as one does. But so I've always been writing. And then, of course, with all my English classes, I've always done well in my English classes. And that's probably why I wanted to become an English teacher. Every other subject is not good. So I've always had a connection with English, partially because it was like the only thing I was good at in school. But so yeah, I've been writing for, I would say my whole life, but, or not my whole life, but for a large majority.
Mm-hmm. And so you're continuing to explore poetry as a format now?
Yeah, last semester, or not last semester? Yeah, last semester during everything, or last year. Oh my gosh. I
Right?
I know, I'm having such a difficult time. So last year during the whole pandemic as well, I was in like a contemporary poetry class as well, and that professor really encouraged me to explore different kinds of poetry that I really hadn't, because my favorite poet is Walt Whitman, and he's really great. I mean, he's my favorite, but he's pretty old-timey, I don't know. So contemporary poetry and also Dr. Donovan's classes allowed me to, explore different forms and different things that are happening now that I think more students can relate to. I mean, I could argue that anyone can relate to Walt Whitman, but I won't get into that. But I think that, yeah. So I'm continuing to explore different types of poetry, and of course on Ethical ELA, all of the people that are leading the posts for the day, the leaders for that, always offer like new and interesting forms that I've honestly never heard of some of them. And so it's fun to try and figure those out and maybe like try to incorporate those in my classroom someday as well. Kind of like fun because I'm learning like as a pre-service teacher, but I don't think you ever stop learning. So
You don't, because I'm thinking about retiring and I'm still learning so many new and wonderful things too through this group. Have you found any certain forms or prompts or anything through the group that you think, oh yeah, I want to explore that a little bit more, either for yourself or, as you said, with future students?
I really there was one the other day, it was kind of like a derived poetry. And I think for the classroom, the derived poetry is like perfect because I think a lot of times if students can like take ideas from another poet and create a whole new form, they feel confident because they're able to use these words that are already out there and like obviously have been recognized because they're from a famous poet. And so they feel like more confident in their writing. Like I can write something just as great as Allen Ginsberg or, Maya Angelou. So it's like, I don't know. I think it's so exciting. I love derived poetry personally. That's not really super new to me, but and I think the one for today was haiku, and I always love a haiku. And yeah. So there's a lot of different forms. There was one the other day, I can't even remember what it was called. Start with a G. Like man, I wish I knew, but it's okay.
You put me on the spot now too. It'll come to one of us sooner or later, I'm sure. Do you have established routines as a student for your writing? I'm sure you do for your homework, but then if you look at writing as something maybe different than your homework, do you write at certain times of day or night, or do you have certain places, or how do you do your writing?
Well, ever since COVID started, I don't go anywhere. I'm really strict about it. So I stay in this room and I write in this room that we're in right now. And I usually write in the morning or at night. During the day, I kind of just try to work on homework and go on walks, lots of walks,
Mhm.
and go read in my hammock or something. But I usually try to write in the mornings or the nights because I feel like during those times everything's calm and I don't have like I can't write when I have a million things going through my head because I just can't concentrate. So I like writing in the mornings. I like writing at nights. My sister recently got me this book and it has like a bunch of different prompts in it. It's like called Burn After Writing or something. And I really like that because sometimes, like with Ethical ELA, they offer you prompts, and I sometimes find it to be easier with prompts than just trying to come up with something on the spot. So I like prompts with my writing if I'm not just trying to write my feelings down. But usually prompts are good.
Yeah. What I enjoy too is to see how people take those prompts so differently. Because in my head, it's like, oh, you can only do it this way, right? But then you see all these wonderful things. So just reading the other poems has been so
Mhm.
beneficial for me as a writer too. So
I agree. I know sometimes when I like read the prompt and I'm like, I have no idea what I want to do with this really. And so I'll go through and read some other people's and try to get inspiration from their writing as well, which helps a lot, I think, for myself.
absolutely. Well, we've been kind of dancing around the whole pandemic topic, but you brought it up a couple of times. So let's go back to a year and a month almost now ago. And can you share with me what you remember when the pandemic started? Where were you? What happened? How did everything go down?
Yeah, of course. So I was here in Stillwater when I found out about it. And actually, the first time we ever talked about it, like at school, I was in Dr. Donovan's class, and it was a night class. Most of the education classes are at night. So the news had come on and they were saying like it's getting pretty serious. And Dr. Donovan was having this conversation with us about how we can easily switch to online learning. And she doesn't want to, obviously, but we're like, well, this may be the we see each other like for 2 weeks, everyone thought. And so we're like, okay, well, bye guys. Like this is kind of weird. But I mean, with online everything, it was like not as scary. Um, because we could still continue with like the normalcy of class
Mhm.
and a routine like that, even if we wouldn't be all together in person. So I was in Dr. Donovan's class, and then I went home to my apartment, not where I'm living now, but I used to live in an apartment last year. And I went to my roommate and I was like, in class just now, we were talking about how we're not going to be in school. And so we turned on the news and it was just so weird. And I think it was the same night as the Thunder game, the OKC Thunder game, where one of the players from maybe Seattle or something had tested positive for COVID. And that was like the first case ever. And of course, it had to be in Oklahoma. And I was like, this is so, and I mean, OKC is only like 50 minutes away from Stillwater. So I was like, this is so weird that this is all happening. And it felt like everything happened at once. And the next day, that following Friday, I had a um, linguistics exam. And so I was trying to study for that, trying to figure out like what is going on with the world right now. Am I going to be able to come back like after this week? And so the linguistics exam was the last class I ever had for that semester. And that was really weird. It was just like an exam, and I just left, and then school was over. And then we
So
had
did classes end early or did they continue on?
they all continued online. Some teachers decided to do like Zoom, or some teachers just uploaded lectures and then we had to watch them, or some just uploaded readings and we had to just teach ourselves that. So yeah, classes still went on and everything with that. And then the next semester, the fall of 2020, I had all online classes. So I just stayed at home really. And this semester, I only have 2 in person and the rest are online. So I'm actually in person some this semester.
And how does that work with in person? Do you are certain classes just offered in person, or do you have the option to go in person, or are you required?
Yeah, well, unfortunately, since I am super strict and I don't go anywhere, thankfully I'm fully vaccinated now. So that's one good thing. Today's the 2-week mark after my second one, so that's good. But unfortunately, it was required that we have in person. And since I'm a senior, I didn't really have a lot of choice in my classes. So since things were required, I couldn't like try and find a different class that would work for the credit that I needed.
Mhm.
So 2 of my classes are required in person, and the only way that you can miss class is if you need to get a COVID test. And so I had to do that one time this semester. I missed class once because I had to go get tested, but negative, so we're good. But yeah, so in class, everyone's spread out fairly well. And they have like, what's that? I don't know what it's called, like that plastic. Oh, I don't know what it's called. You like put it together and oh gosh, I don't know what it's called, but they have that on the chairs so you don't sit in like
Okay.
next to someone.
Okay.
Zip ties, is that what they're
Yeah.
called?
Yeah.
Okay, like really big, thick industrial zip ties on the
Okay.
chairs, and everyone's required to wear their masks. I wear 2 masks because it just makes me so nervous, and I sit like so far away from everyone. And then my other class in person is only like 4 people, so I'm not really worried about that one. But yeah, and the rest are online.
Mhm, mhm. Well, I know you've mentioned before that you kind of consider yourself a little bit of an introvert, and you wrote a beautiful poem on the 9th of April that kind of to me spoke a little bit about COVID and the changes that we all had to go through at that time. Would you be willing to read that poem?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Okay. Introverted personality. I always longed for my alone time. Every time I was stuck in a crowd, stiff, uncomfortable, just wanting to go home, curl up with a book and my own simple thoughts. Now my thoughts are too much alone. I find myself reaching for the phone, begging for a connection that I loathed before. The touch of a hand, the brush of a shoulder, even a hug. Why, oh, why did you always want to be alone? Was it because you had a choice to be with people? Was it because you actually wanted to be alone? Now it seems my longing has changed from one to many.
And how do you think that, I know you said before that you felt that you got a little bit more introspective during this time. Um, do you think that it also affected your studies, having to go online?
I don't know. I think that all of my professors really adapted well. That the only aspect I was really missing was getting up, getting ready, and going to like see friends in class. Because most of my classes, I like everyone I knew for my English and education courses. So I think I missed that routine because I would wake up 5 minutes before class or remember I had class in 5 minutes and I'd just be at home and I'd turn my screen on and pay attention, sort of. I mean, it's hard to pay attention in like your own environment. But I mean, it didn't affect like, I've always been really strict with grades. So, I mean, it didn't affect my grades, but I think it affected my mental state more so than anything. Because I mean, I wasn't going anywhere, I wasn't seeing anyone. All my friends I would just be seeing online or not at all.
Mhm.
And so I think my mental everything with that was really struggling. I mean, still is. Like this whole week I've been in this room just going to class 2 times this week. So I don't know.
Is that something that you would talk about with your peers at all? Or is that just something that people kind of keep to themselves right now?
I I don't know because I like with my friends that I don't have classes with, I'll talk about it.
Mm.
But like my friends that I have classes with, our relationships have kind of distanced themselves and I don't feel like as close with them anymore, which is hard because they're like going into the same field as I am. So I want to have that sort of connection with them. But it's just kind of like not there anymore. And we all try, but it's just hard when you're not like yeah, because we don't have that like fun interaction that we used to in class, especially education classes. I mean, I used to have so much fun in them, and then when it switched to online, it was just kind of like, well, I'm learning, but is it fun? No. So I don't know. It's yeah,
It's definitely not the ideal format. I think we all can safely say that.
most
But
definitely.
one thing that I know that I have done personally is try harder to look at different sides of things. So I know you mentioned that you were able to attend classes from home. You could get up 5 minutes before classes start.
Mhm.
So I would imagine there might be some comfort level in that too. You were with your family at home?
Yes, I was. Yeah, that was really nice. I think if I had been stuck in Stillwater, um, I would have gone crazy or something. So I was really grateful that I was able to go home and spend all that time with my family, um, especially because in when it was like June, my sister was getting deployed again. And so I got like a whole 5 months with her that I wouldn't have gotten because I would have been here at school in Stillwater. So, I mean, I think that was a really nice bonus
Mhm.
of COVID. And we just spent so much, I mean, we didn't go anywhere. So we spent all the time together. And so, yeah, I think family time was something that I'm really grateful for. Um, I didn't see any of my friends during that time. I didn't see and most of my friends live in Texas. Um, so I couldn't see them. So that was unfortunate, but I made it through and yeah.
Hopefully soon we'll get back on track. I'm excited when I hear about young people like you who are already getting vaccinated because it's so different from state to state. So it's wonderful to hear. I was really intrigued by another poem that you wrote about having coffee with someone, and I'm doing everything I can to not ask you who this person is, but your poem was for me so enticing. I really kind of wanted to know who it was, but you don't have to tell. If you would read the poem, though, I'd appreciate it.
I can tell. It doesn't bother me. It's my boyfriend. Um and it's really weird because we started dating in January of 2020. And then in March, like the end of March, everything happened. So we only had like 3 months, maybe, of time together. And his family, he lives in Edmond, where my parents and sister live, but his family lives in Texas.
Mm.
So during quarantine, he went down there. So I didn't see him at all. So all my friends and my boyfriend were in Texas, which is fine. But so I just had all this time to like sit and be like, this is this is my first relationship. I've never had a boyfriend before. So um it was just like, of course, the first time I get a boyfriend, there's a pandemic going on. And so I would just sit and I mean, I wrote so many so like cheesy love poems during this time because I was like, well, it's not like I can spend time with him or anything. Like I really like poured my heart into poetry during this time because that's all like the romance I was getting was like if I wrote it myself. So let me read this poem real quick. Okay. Having a morning coffee with you is something we've never done, but I can picture it perfectly. Laughter would echo as you poured, steam would rise from the mug. Yours would be black and mine a light brown. We'd be sitting crisscross on the couch, windows open, letting in the breeze, sipping lightly as the caffeine awakens us. Maybe someday we can share a morning coffee. Until then, I'll enjoy this cup of joe on my own, thinking of you.
I love that poem.
Thank you.
And here's my unsolicited advice, which would be just to hang on to those poems, because you never know. Maybe looking back in 5 years or 5 months, who knows? You can revise them, take another look at them. It'll be interesting. So in Oklahoma, is there any sense of what things will be like in the fall yet?
Well, I like in Edmond, the mask mandate is already gone. I think in Stillwater, it's ending fairly soon. I'm actually surprised it hasn't yet. But I know for OSU, they're planning on all in-person classes next fall. Of course, I won't be here in Stillwater next semester since I'll be student teaching. So I won't have like any actual classes here or anything. So I'm done with Stillwater after this semester. But and they're like planning to have in person like full capacity sports here. So I mean, I think everything's opening up, and I think a lot more or less apprehensive. I'm still scared. I'll probably be wearing my mask for a while, but I think that things are starting to open up, and the vaccine rollout in Oklahoma is actually really good. And so all my friends and all my family were all vaccinated now. So I'm just feeling hopeful, even though there is some fear there. But I think for the most part, things are looking up.
So do you have your student teaching assignment yet, or is that still to come?
I don't. So this semester, I'm in classroom management, and that's one of the classes we do observations for. And I was observing at a high school in Jones, Oklahoma, which is about an hour and 15 minutes from Stillwater. And then from my house in Edmond, it's about like 30 minutes. And the idea is that you're supposed to be student teaching in the same place that you observed for classroom management, just so you're familiar with that teacher and that kind of environment. But I haven't heard yet. And the person in charge of everything here at OSU is still working on placements. So fingers crossed, I'm at Jones. But I also signed up for a middle school and a high school in Edmond. Well, like outside of Edmond, because I'm not supposed to student teach in the same place I went to school, or the same district I went to school at, understandably. So like 2 places kind of outside of Edmond. So I'll be living at home again in the fall. So
good. Well, do you have any insights that you've taken away either as a student or as a potential teacher or a writer just from this whole pandemic, once in a lifetime, I hope, experience?
Gosh, I hope so too. I think the main thing that I've taken away, and it kind of, since I was observing in person this semester at Jones, I noticed that like there wasn't a whole lot of student relationships happening, like connections. Since everyone's so spaced out, it's just hard to have conversations. And like I want to connect with students whenever I'm in the classroom, and I didn't really get to do that as much as I had hoped. And I'm hoping in the fall when I student teach, things will be a little better. But I don't know. So I think the main thing that I took away from in my poetry, in my real life as a teacher, I think that human connection is far more important than I ever thought, because I mean, like my introvert poem said, like I've always been just like hanging out by myself, and I had no problem with it. But now that I've spent so much time with myself, I'm like, I literally crave human connection and relationships, and I just like miss that a lot. And I really want to like create, I mean, I knew this before the pandemic, but I really want to create like a good community in my future classroom. because I think students like school so much more when they feel like they have like a safe place to be and like a safe place to chat about whatever they want to chat about, um, and have that human connection with their peers and with me as a teacher and other teachers. So I think that's the main thing. And also, I mean, that human connection can immediately go into poetry as well. I mean, most of my poems now deal with humans, whereas in the past it was kind of Walt Whitman, Henry David Thoreau nature poems, you know. But now they've all switched to sort of going from inanimate things to real people and feelings, emotions, human connection, all that. So,
Well, I think it's wonderful that you've noticed it, and I think that you've articulated it so beautifully. And even something I think as seemingly small as just talking about that with students can be so inspiring to them too. So, you wrote another poem that was kind of looking back at yourself as a teenager, kind of giving yourself a little bit of advice. And again, I think this would be such an amazing poem to share with students. Would you mind reading that one?
yeah, of course. So this was the people for this prompt on Ethical ELA, they were my classmates at the time. And so the prompt was to write a letter to yourself. And I think for me, since I'm only 21, I was like, well, I'm not looking back that far. But then I think I'm like, well, I've changed a lot, even in 6 years, or at the time, 5 years. So I thought it was kind of fun to write about and everything like that. Okay, I'll read it. It says, Dear Laurel, at 15, you wanted to be an actress on Broadway, or even better, at the West End. Even before then, you wanted to be a journalist, but always had a knack for too much detail that journalism would never allow. While some paths have now taken you down different directions, you wouldn't change where your life is now and where you are headed. You should have always known you were going to become a teacher after you played school every day as a child, and you were never the designated student. At 15, you blasted Taylor Swift love songs in the passenger seat of your mom's green Ford Bronco, as if you had been heartbroken by a million different boys. Nothing felt more cathartic than blasting White Horse down I-35, with the windows slightly cracked and hair flying in a multitude of different directions. Your music taste has definitely changed now, but you still crave that highway drive. It's only you and the road now, though. At 15, you were hurt by too many mean girls in school, but just hold on a little longer until you are able to reach your lifelong best friends in college. Everything you went through before will be worth the torture just to even meet these wonderful people. You will feel like you've known them your whole life, and college will fly by in the blink of an eye. At 15, you could have never envisioned how your life is now, how different things are from your imagination. I think if there is one lesson you should carry with you, it is to expect the unexpected and to embrace change. Change is the only constant now. I know you are a control freak, love to be in charge of everything, but sometimes it is okay to just go with the flow. Embrace everything in life, the good, the bad, and the wildly fanciful and unexpected. Best wishes.
That last stanza is it's just so wonderful with so much excellent advice, I think, and I think it could kind of summarize the whole pandemic experience. None of us, I don't think, ever thought we would live through anything like this, experience anything like this, or even be so resilient as so many of us have shown that we can be. So again, I think what an amazing poem this would be to share with your future students. So I'm certain you're keeping a portfolio of all your work so that you can share it.
Of course.
Great. And I'm so glad to hear that you're going to continue writing. I have every confidence you're going to be an amazing teacher. Would you mind taking us out with one last poem? I know you had one poem that was about time.
Yes, I do. And it kind of goes with how fast college flew by. It's very weird to me. Time is a very interesting thing, especially with the pandemic warping time even more, I feel like. Okay, this is a limerick that I wrote. There is a man who is named Time. He is quite fond of doing crime. Thievery more so, prying in to cause woe. Hear him now, his incessant chime.
Great. Well, I really, really appreciate you taking time out of your busy college career to talk with me this afternoon.
Thank you so much for having me. I enjoyed talking with you.
I'm glad we were able to connect. All right. Best of luck to you for the rest of your college career.
All righty. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.